Hi, everyone. I'm Daniel Rubinstein, and today is November 17th, 2024. This is the live daily briefing of the Israeli Citizen Spokesperson's Office. We are live on Instagram, X, YouTube, LinkedIn, and available afterwards wherever you get your podcasts. So please start submitting questions in the chat, like, subscribe, follow. You'll help us reach a wider audience. We need to talk about the head of UNRWA. This guy is hiding the truth. We can't let him get away with it. This is Felipe Lazarini. He's the head of UNRWA. He said at least 243 UNRWA personnel have been killed in the war. That's a specific number. It sounds like he has a list of their names. I have a simple question. What are their names? Who are the 243? UNRWA refuses to let the public know. Is Mohammed Abu Itiwi on the list? He was an UNRWA employee. He was also a commander in Hamas Special Forces. On October 7th, he threw grenades into the shelter where people who fled the Nova Music Festival were hiding. In many cases, UNRWA guys and Hamas guys are the same guys. UNRWA teachers were among the Hamas terrorists who invaded Israel on October 7th. The head of the UNRWA Teachers Union in Lebanon, Fatah Sharif, was also a senior Hamas commander in Lebanon. Is Sharif on Lazarini's list of dead UNRWA employees? Why doesn't UNRWA publish the list of names? I'll tell you why. Israel will cross-check the names against a list of known Hamas terrorists. The whole world will see how deeply Hamas has infiltrated UNRWA. Let me know in the comments if you think I'm onto something. Good news. The maximum pressure campaign against the Iranian regime is making a comeback. The Biden administration was not strict with its Iran sanctions implementation. According to the Financial Times, Iran's crude oil exports have more than tripled in the past 4 years, from a low of 400,000 barrels a day in 2020 to more than 1.5 million barrels a day in 2024. Iran made lots of money from this. Where do you think that money went? It didn't go to the Iranian people. It went to the Hamas rapist regime in Gaza. It went to the Hezbollah terrorist army in Lebanon. It went to the Houthi pirates in Yemen. The Iranian regime used its billions of dollars to build a ring of fire around Israel. Israel is now defending itself on 7 fronts. President Trump's transition team is reportedly drawing up executive orders that he could issue on his first day in office to increase the pressure on Iran. This is the right move. We must increase the pressure on the Iranian regime so that it can't fund its forever war against Israel. The Iranian regime is the problem. Maximum pressure on the Iranian regime is the solution. Every day, the IDF is uncovering more of the Iranian regime's investments in Lebanon. By that, I mean the massive military infrastructure that Hezbollah built very close to Israel's border. What the IDF is revealing is incredible. Hezbollah was prepared to invade Israel and carry out a massacre, just like what Hamas did on October 7th, but potentially worse. Hezbollah built a huge tunnel network near Israel's borders. Weapons were ready, ammunition was ready, motorcycles were ready. Hezbollah fighters could have mobilized rapidly without warning, burst into Israel at multiple points along the border, conquered villages, and taken hostages. Israel will never again allow a terrorist army on its border to have the capability to launch such an invasion. We are not going back to an October 6th reality. Israel has said for the past year that Hezbollah must back off or it will be pushed away. Hezbollah hasn't backed off and it's being pushed away. The Iranian regime has invested huge sums of money in its proxy armies. It also invested huge sums of money in a military nuclear program. Yes, a military nuclear program. If you thought that Iran froze its military nuclear program decades ago, you're wrong. When Israel struck targets in Iran at the end of October, one of the sites it hit was a nuclear weapons research facility in an Iranian military complex called Parchin. The sophisticated equipment destroyed in the attack was essential for shaping and testing plastic explosives that encase uranium in a nuclear device. The equipment was crucial for initiating a nuclear chain reaction. Iran claims that its nuclear program is entirely peaceful. It's not. Iran wants to wipe Israel off the map, and Iran continues to explore ways to do just that. Israel will never allow Iran to develop a nuclear weapons capability. We need maximum pressure on Iran until it abandons its military nuclear program forever. Let's take some questions from people watching live on social media, whether on Instagram, X, YouTube, LinkedIn, and so on. Let's hear what the audience has to say.
Thank you, Daniel. This question is from Instagram. If Hamas must be destroyed, demilitarized, and de-radicalized, then what about in Judea and Samaria?
Yes, let's focus on each of these pieces. So in Gaza, Hamas had an organized military with brigades, with battalions, an organized command structure. And it was this Hamas military that was able to carry out such a complex and sophisticated military maneuver on October 7th, which was the invasion of Israel. So when Israel is saying that Hamas needs to be destroyed in Gaza, it means dismantling its military capabilities, and of course also releasing every hostage. So that's the military goals in Gaza. And of course in the West Bank, where Israel has had more of a presence, Israel never withdrew completely from the West Bank like it did in Gaza. In the West Bank, Hamas has cells. There are other terrorist groups, Islamic Jihad, other Iranian-sponsored groups. They have cells in the West Bank that, of course, Israel is constantly trying to crack down and uproot, but it is separate from the war goals in Gaza. Even if the war in Gaza ends, the operations in the West Bank could continue.
This question is from Chris on YouTube. Will Lazarini get charged with murder?
I hope Lazarini gets charged with something, but I'm sure he's doing everything he can to make sure that he will not be liable for anything. Lazarini is the head of UNRWA, the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, and since the October 7th massacre, it has become very clear the extent to which Hamas has infiltrated UNRWA. Okay, there are UNRWA teachers who were also Hamas terrorists. Most of the students in Gaza are going to UNRWA schools. So therefore, if there were 3,000 Hamas terrorists on October 7th, most of them were graduates of UNRWA schools. In Gaza City, under UNRWA headquarters, Hamas built a server farm and communications network underneath the UNRWA headquarters. Okay, it was hidden in a tunnel, and Hamas was taking electricity from the UNRWA headquarters above for its massive computer server farm down below. So maybe someone in the UNRWA headquarters above saw the electricity bill, they saw the amount of electricity that was being used and said something, or they didn't. Maybe the person who was working in UNRWA was quite cooperative with Hamas down below. It's not clear. But at a minimum, Lazarini is completely negligent. He has not done anything to screen UNRWA employees for ties to terrorism. And that's something that we've been saying needed to change. It didn't change. And that's why Israel, the Knesset, the parliament, passed legislation saying that the state of Israel and its institutions are not allowed to cooperate with UNRWA anymore. And that's because it has been completely infiltrated by Hamas. So Lazarini is presiding over an organization that has been infiltrated. It needs to be shut down. He needs to go. In the meantime, we need to keep up the pressure.
This question is from Ed on YouTube. What's going on in northern Gaza? People are claiming that they're preparing the ground for Jewish towns in the area. Can you comment on this, please?
Yes, in northern Gaza right now is where some of the most intense fighting continues in the Gaza Strip. There are Hamas fighters who have refused to surrender, refused to lay down their weapons, and they are continuing to fight from northern Gaza. They are fighting from densely populated areas. They are fighting from apartment buildings. They are fighting from tunnel networks under the buildings. They have snipers on the roof. They have RPGs. There is an intense urban warfare taking place in northern Gaza, and Israeli soldiers are paying the price in this battle. There have been many Israeli casualties. I just read of another one recently in northern Gaza. So at the same time that this intense fighting is going on in northern Gaza, Israel is doing everything possible while there's fighting going on to make sure that civilians can be out of harm's way and that aid can reach civilians in northern Gaza. There is a border crossing in northern Gaza. It's called Erez, E-R-E-Z. That has been open for trucks going into northern Gaza. There is aid in the southern part of Gaza. So there's aid within Gaza. There's distribution that needs to be improved by international aid organizations. But the key thing to remember about northern Gaza specifically is that there's a war going on. Hamas has chosen the battlefield. Hamas is fighting from these densely populated urban areas. And the result is going to be that that's where the war is going to be. And until Hamas is either defeated in northern Gaza or surrenders, then the situation in northern Gaza is going to continue to be a war zone.
Viv on Instagram asks, what can PR do in Israel to disprove genocide claims?
We need to be very clear about what are our objectives and how we are achieving them. We cannot spend all our time trying to refute every lie that's told about Israel, or we will spend our whole day thinking, oh, this person said this, what do we say about it? This person said this, what do we say about it? We're not here to explain ourselves. We are here to demand answers. We're here to demand that Hamas lay down its weapons and release the hostages. Hamas chose to go to war on October 7th. It is facing the consequences of its war. And it's obvious to everyone who observes the situation that that is what's happening, that there is a war inside Gaza and Israel is fighting that war while doing everything possible to minimize, to mitigate the harm to civilians in Gaza. But Hamas has chosen to fight from civilian areas, to fire from civilian areas, to move around looking like they're civilians until they can pick up a weapon somewhere else. We're talking about urban warfare. You can look at what many different military experts have said, that Israel is going above and beyond the requirements of the Geneva Conventions to minimize, to mitigate harm to civilians. That's what Israel will continue to do until Hamas lays down its weapons, until the hostages are released. This is a just war. It is fought justly. We do not need to apologize for it any further.
This is our final question. Can you tell us more about the drone that came into Israel from the east today?
I just saw the report as I was going live that earlier today there was a drone infiltration and sirens went off in the city of Rishon LeZion, which is just south of where I'm standing now. Okay, we don't know exactly where this drone came from or which flight path that it took. It may have originated from Iran itself. It may have started its flight in Iraq. It may have started its flight in Syria. It may have started its flight in Lebanon and flown south before it was finally picked up on the radar. Or it may have started its journey in Yemen on the south. We're not exactly sure where this drone started, but the important thing to remember is that it's an Iranian drone. It is a slow-moving but deadly drone. These drones have flown into buildings. People have been killed. People have been harmed. Israel is facing a seven-front war, which is why when I don't know, when I hear that there's a drone, I'm not actually sure which direction it came from. We're going to continue fighting until we can be safe in our own homes. Thank you so much to everyone for watching the live daily briefing. You can follow me, Daniel Rubinstein, on Instagram. I am on Twitter. If I didn't get to your question, you can try to submit it to me. We are going to be live every day this week, Sunday to Thursday, 3 p.m. Israel time, 8 a.m. on the East Coast. Also, check out our new Spanish channel. We have published a Spanish channel. You can find it from our main channel. We have a lot of interesting content there. Hope you'll check it out. Tell your friends. I'm Daniel Rubinstein. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. Have a lovely day.
Thanks for watching. Drop a comment below. Don't forget to like, share, and hit subscribe to stay updated with our latest content. Until next time, stay informed and inspired. This is Dejobnik signing off.